friends. Welcome back to the Old Fashioned On Purpose podcast. Today, we are diving into a topic I really love, and it's also kind of one of my pet peeves, if you will. I think one of the biggest dreams that homesteaders like you and I have is that we want to get the homestead, we want to be self-sufficient, and then the ultimate is to be able to make an income from our homesteads, from the land or from the backyards or wherever that may be. However, I get a lot of people coming to me with the idea of, I'm going to be able to support my homestead and support my family by just selling our homestead extras. Maybe it's the eggs, maybe it's the soap, maybe it's a few jars of honey a year. And while I totally think that's a admirable dream, in reality, it doesn't really work as smoothly as we might hope in that regard. So I wanted to have someone join me today who does know how to make money from a small farm. He teaches people how to do this. He's a consultant, he's an educator, a farmer, and an inventor. He lives in Ohio. Michael Kilpatrick, welcome to the podcast. I can't wait for this conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Can you start us off by giving us a little bit of your background? I feel like, I read an introduction is not as compelling as you telling a little bit of your own story and how you came to this place.
Yeah, so kind of the last 20 years in a couple minutes is I was born in St. Louis, moved to Massachusetts where my family first started gardening. My dad had no idea because he was a doctor, but he did it because he wanted something to connect with his kids, which was fabulous because it really got us interested in growing things. In 1999, we moved to upstate New York where we bought 8 acres and literally made every mistake in the book at least twice. We were the so-called rich people from out of town in the little city of, little village of maybe like 300 or 400 people, what Middle Granville had at that point. So we rapidly scaled that business over a number of years to about $500,000 in sales and about 20 team members. But I mean, the first year we were really only, we making a couple $100 a week at the farmer's market. I remember that first year we actually lost money because the booth fee was $5 and we made $3. So part of that was finding better places to sell our food. And we did. We ended up with really good mentors, Paul and Sandy Arnold, who I think are some of the top farmers in the U.S. I mean, they've been on their piece of land for now 30 years and are now passing it to the next generation after, spending several weeks on a, around the world cruise. I mean, that's one of the things. If you have a profitable farm, profitable farms make money, but it takes time to get there. And I think that's the biggest, if we were to, sum everything up we're going to talk about today is this takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. But we built that farm. We ended up winding that farm down in 2015 to move to Ohio because that's where my wife's family is when we had our first daughter. And then in 2020, we found another piece of land that 8-acre urban property that we are now turning into what we call the Farm on Central. And that is an on-farm shop. And we have you-pick flowers on there. We have you-pick strawberries. We have a bunch of hoop houses and greenhouses. We do about a bunch of horticulture. And we, feed people and educate them on what it takes to eat and live more healthily.
I love that. Yeah. So you've kind of done all the different versions. It feels like been there, done that, seen a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah. And even between in 2015 to 2020, we were on 1/3 of an acre in the city and we tilled our entire yard up. We had a little hoop house in the backyard. Our neighbors called the cops on us because we had row cover hoops leaning up against their garage, which technically their garage was on our property, but you can't tell 80-year-old people that. So lots of fun stuff.
That's exciting. Yeah. That's good stories. So I said in the beginning, in the intro, I said pet peeve, maybe that was harsh, but I feel like I'm constantly bursting people's bubble, or maybe I'm not even bursting it. I just hear the dreams coming to me when people are sharing their ideas. And I'm like, oh, I know this is going to be a hard road, hard lessons for you. But before I hit record, you and I talked a little bit about, the dream that you're going to support your property and make 6 figures a year selling eggs or soap or honey or, carrots. So what would you say to someone who's listening to that and they're like, oh, Jill's like poking, holes in my big idea. How can we let those folks down gently, or how can we start to redirect them a little bit?
Yeah. So first, if you want to make 6 figures off eggs, first, just to make 6 figures in income, that is 20,000 dozen of eggs. So you just got to start thinking about volume here. Soap, there's a lot of, every single farmer's market I've been to has at least one, if not two, soap vendors. So
Yes.
again, there's some oversaturated things. Some things are before I, start downing everybody, I do want to say there is unbelievable opportunity for a small farm, small homestead to make money on their farm. I mean, that's what we teach. That's what we see excited, farmers across the nation and around the world doing. So it's very possible. You have to be creative because again, there's everyone out there. Joel Salatin wrote, Pastured Poultry Profits, and now you have everyone and their brother pulling pens around their yard and selling chickens.
Yes.
Even though I still think that's a very profitable enterprise. And we saw that in our stores. We've sold out several batches. And, the biggest opportunity there, just a quick side note, is cutting them up into 8 pieces, your breast, your legs, your thighs, your wings, and then selling those because that's an instant. It takes you 30 seconds or a minute to cut that chicken up. And now you've instantly doubled your value of your chicken. So there's a lot of opportunity. But it really comes down to is further processing. Is I tell people, let's farm and feed people, not grow food. Because growing food is literally just growing and cherry tomatoes in your backyard. But unfortunately, you're probably going to let those cherry tomatoes split and rot on the ground and then cause a problem next year with all the little cherry tomatoes coming up. When the real opportunity is making prepared salads and selling them to people or putting them in the local CrossFit gyms or something like that, because that is what people want. We have to realize the consumer is very different than it was 10, 20, even 5 years ago. The consumer now, they want ready to eat. I mean, we have someone in our city here who, again, he's a leader in our community. He has several businesses, a very nice guy. He's stopped here maybe a couple times over the couple of years we've had it open. His wife stops once in a while, but he's like, Michael, we don't eat. We don't cook. He's like, we go out every night and get something to eat. He's like, if you had a ready to eat meal for me, I would be stopping in every single night and buy it from you because he has the income. But he just doesn't like to cook because so many people don't. His wife's a full-time teacher. She's very busy with what she does. And so just that aspect of he's not going to come buy lettuce, cherry tomatoes, and a cucumber and a bottle of dressing. He literally is willing to pay double if it's literally in a container. But there's also that aspect of, so that's just one side. I did mention the aspect of, prepared food, but there's only so much of that I know people want to do. Some people just really do not want to do that. But then there's other things like, Christmas trees or, like we talked about cutting up chicken, but one of our suppliers completely bypasses that. All the chicken they produce goes straight into chicken sausages and they sell out within a day in our farm store. So again, it's that aspect of people don't want chicken. They want chicken sausages and they will pay the price in the store. I think is $10 for 5 sausages. And, they're your average, brat size. So that's $2 each. And people are happy. And I am ourselves because they're very good.
Yeah.
But that to me is that value add or that differentiation is, basically if you're growing a cherry tomato, whether you like it or not, it's a commodity that sits on the market. And, that's $1.50 a pint from, I can pick up the phone, call one of my suppliers and, hey, I want 6 flats, $1.50 each. And so, that's just, it's out there and it's very available, but that prepared salad is something very differentiation. Or if you made a Sun Gold jam, that's a huge differentiation and people are willing to pay very high dollar for that.
That is fascinating.
And a lot of those things we just named store. So obviously the prepared salad doesn't, but the Sun Gold jam does. The chicken sausages store, and a lot of the things we're doing too is like health and wellness. So salves, bombs, herbal remedies, that sort of thing too. I think there's a lot of potential there. I think there's a lot of people out there, but I still think because of the massive movement right now towards owning your own medicine and your own health, people are very interested in that. And so once you educate them, they're willing to buy. And they're willing to switch to that, but they have to have the education.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, so many nuggets in there. And I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself, but I feel like this is a good place to ask this because one of the not concerns, actually, just things I notice is as this awareness around food, the homestead movement, regenerative ag, small farms is growing, which is fantastic. There is more saturation in these spaces than there was 2, 3, 5 years ago. And so what I'm hearing is potentially this value add mindset where we're not just growing the commodities, but we're actually turning them into products that are ready to roll. Is that what you say would be a good way to combat saturation?
That's a great way, but I think we need to go back and take a quick note on chickens, because I know that's something that everyone's like, I'm just going to sell some eggs. Well, when
Yeah.
we started selling eggs, back in, let's see, this would have been 2000, year 2001, they were $1 a dozen.
Yep.
Locally now here, they're $3 a dozen during the egg shortage of 2022. They were as high as six. We saw them going for high as $6 for just regular farm fresh eggs. But that lady was laughed out of the local Facebook group.
Sure. Yep. Yep.
So I'm sure, I think she sold them all, but there was a number of people saying like, which planet were you, and I'm
Yeah,
like, well, really her cost of production is probably $4 a dozen. So to me, that's,
exactly.
$6 is fair, because you don't realize how much energy and how much protein and just the goodness of an egg. I mean, egg is literally such a great food. And so that's why I think obviously so many people raise them. I think the unfortunate part is they're raised many times in too high of concentration. To me, the egg and the chicken should be 3 to 4 in every backyard. And they're literally eating all the waste of that family's household and just, literally pooping gold. But most people end up with too many. They're feeding them a lot of feed, and they put a lot of energy and money into it, and then they end up losing money on it. When we were doing eggs, even at 300 to 400 hens, my brother kept running the numbers. And he's like, there's no way we can afford to sell eggs cheaper than $5 a dozen. Even at that point when our feed was not the prices it is today.
Yeah.
So, really where they're starting to make money is when you start a couple thousand chickens, and you're using these larger systems and efficiencies. So that's where it all comes down to, is the efficiencies. But, that whole aspect of a dozen chickens in your backyard, yeah, it'll supply you and your family, and you may sell a few, but it's not going to pay your mortgage.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And the cost of eggs is something I just think the average consumer has no idea, because we're so used to the subsidies and the commodity prices. Like, my husband's constantly like, our eggs are so expensive. Just the ones we're eating ourselves,
Yeah.
It's just, there's no way I'd make my money back, even selling them for $6 a dozen.
Yeah. In fact, I mean, it's interesting because like the eggs we eat come from our in-laws, and they are, rich yolks. I mean, just absolutely dark orange. And we actually get in certified organic eggs coming from the next county over for our store. And again, we love the people. They're great, great farmers, but the color is different. The flavor is different. It's just not the same. And my wife and I are like, if we were, thank God that our in-laws are willing to do a couple dozen chickens, but he loses money on every dozen he grows.
Yeah.
Mainly because he's giving too much for free, but
Sure.
yes, but I mean, the ones he does sell, even at $6 a dozen, I would say he loses money based on what I know his costs are, because he's doing non-GMO feed and all the other things that he has into it.
Right. Yeah, makes total sense. Yeah. Okay, so now I had to just ask the saturation question, because I'm always fascinated by that. So I'd like to back up. Okay, so we've busted the bubble of everyone who's going to try to sell eggs and make $1 million, and the soap stands. Okay, so someone's like, "Great, Michael and Jill, way to go! Now what do I do?" So what are some first steps if they're really wanting to stop corporate, get out of corporate America, move to the farm, live the dream? How on earth do we even start? How do we get the ideas? Where would you direct people first?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things I always say that people need is they need an understanding of business and marketing. My mentor, Paul's told me, first, Michael, you need to be a marketer, then a business person, and finally a farmer. So getting that basics, and again, you don't need to go to school for it. There's a couple books out there that I think if you were to read through, you'd be like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, okay, that makes sense. This is how you do it. I mean, the biggest things of understanding who your avatar is, or who your target customer is, and then what are the basics of how to sell them and how to make an offer to them is the key. So once you get that down, then you're golden, because I find so many people don't know how to talk about what they're offering. They say, I have eggs. What they don't say is, I have literally the perfect food, which can sit in the bowl on your counter. And anytime you and your family need some food, it's the perfect food. You can drop it in a pan, and 30 seconds later, you have a fried egg. You can scramble it. You can put it in a smoothie, and it's that great amount of protein. And this is, it has all these, and grass-fed eggs or pastured hens have all these additional properties. That's the kind of story you need to tell, instead of, I have farm fresh eggs, which again are great. A lot of people want them, but why would they pay the $6 compared to the $4? So you have to help them justify that additional cost of what you're going to be able to have to charge to make money. But again, let's move on from eggs. Let's talk about just, you said, okay, I get my property. What do I do next? The biggest thing is, what are the holes in your marketplace? And like, where are you? So if you're in the middle of Utah and, 3 hours from the nearest town, and yes, I do know those people. I'm just like, wow. But that's a personal choice. And again, on some days, I bet it's very nice not to have, 30 people drive down your driveway.
Yeah.
But you have to figure out what you're going to sell, because if you're trying to sell salad mix is something that you can only fit 10 or 12 pounds per case. And so that means it's incredibly not dense. And so you have to have a very big truck to move $1,000 worth of that, compared to, let's say, our fire cider. Our fire cider, I think if retail per case, it's like $400 a case. And so when you're moving that, and that case is literally like 18 inches by 12 inches. So when you're thinking about the difference there, the denseness of that product is like 5-to-1 or 6-to-1. And the shelf life of fire cider is months compared to lettuce, which is weeks, if not just days. So you have to kind of look at what your market is. Now, if you are, let's say, a very small urban farmstead and you're in the middle of, on the edge of a big city, great, go for it. Do the salads, do the stuff that's very perishable, because that is a very high attraction. It can pull people in. The fire cider, to me, is something that it's education. Now, granted, after we build the education, now we've got a great repeating customer and they come back again and again, but it is something that requires a lot more upfront work, as well as you're supposed to have a certified kitchen for it. It requires, a lot of investment in machinery and work to like design labels and get processes approved and all of that. So there's the kind of what enterprise you're looking for and where you're located. It also, what do you want to do? Because some people really do not want to be in a kitchen where they're chopping onions and garlic and with apple cider vinegar and horseradish and having to wear a little gas mask when you do the horseradish, because that stuff's potent.
It is potent.
So you have to do what you like. And if you have kids, I wouldn't recommend, the highly intensive weekly turn vegetables, just because that's something that you have to be literally hands in the dirt almost every single day of the week. So compared to, if you were like a young family, I would say more go do something maybe like you pick fruit, where it has busy seasons at certain times, and then you can back off the rest of the year. So you have a busy season where you're going to have some childcare for a couple weeks. And then after that, okay, you're good. And it's just a couple maintenance here and there to prune and trellis and that sort of thing. So it really depends on what you want, what the local market needs. Like right here in our area, we've realized that there's not a lot of local organic fruit. In fact, there's very little. So that's why we've invested an acre or two of our farm. And we realized that you pick fruit is something that people will come in for. They don't necessarily want to come in and drive in and buy our tomatoes, but they will come in and pick the blackberries and then buy a couple pounds of tomatoes on their way out the door, or the sourdough bread we have in the store. So it's aspect of, what people are wanting to and what's needed in your local community. Because if you're setting up, you can grow some melons and you're next to this massive conventional melon farm, it's just probably not going to be a great fit.
Yeah.
So you kind of want to see what's needed in your local community and kind of what your markets are going to be and how you want to set that up. But those are the kind of the steps we like to go through, kind of do like an analysis and then see what we're good at. There is that aspect of, it's probably pretty easy to move the first $20,000 to on your farm. Let's say you're doing pork. If you're deciding you're going to have one pig, it's probably good. You can probably just have 6 pigs. It's just as easy for care. And then those 5 pigs you sell to 10 different friends, a half to 10 different friends. That's pretty easy. But once you go from that friends to now actually having to market and get new customers and pull them into your circle, people you don't, otherwise know, then that starts becoming more of a challenge. And so figuring out that next step is where you need to start figuring out, do I really want to be in the business, or do I want to keep my homestead more to the homestead and just having the pigs pay the mortgage and the pigs basically make my meat free? Because that's the easy part. The easy part is to make your meat free from just selling the other pigs. But once you start moving to the mortgage, healthcare, that's where it gets real fun and really dicey.
Amen to that. Yes, absolutely. So when people are in that stage, because I love marketing, I'm a marketer. I thoroughly enjoy it, but I know that makes a lot of people squeamish. I see people all the time. They just don't want to talk about themselves. They don't want to talk about their product, like you said. Sometimes they don't know how, but a lot of times they just feel like it's bragging, or, there's this weird self-promotion hang up that a lot of us have. So when someone is ready, or they need to move from that realm of, okay, my friends and family are buying my stuff, cool, but I really need to branch out into the bigger market, how can they do that? Because I know sometimes, I have the online world, I'm pretty comfortable there, but I know even like local marketing, that can be trickier, at least it feels trickier for me. So what are some of your steps to do that?
Yeah. So one of the things we've done with our farm is we have found what our local consumers want. And we found the one thing that was like really, really needed and people really got excited about, which was our U-Pick strawberries. And we've scaled that as big as we can. Because what we realize is that to us is a steady stream of new leads. And so that brings in about 4 to 5 week period every year, about 3,000 people to our farm. And so obviously some of those people are on our list, but a lot of those are brand new people that have never seen us. And so that has helped us continue to, and we make them buy tickets to the U-Pick, which means that we always have their email now. So we now have their email and we can remarket them. And then we start marketing to them with a first kind of a nurture sequence, tell them about our farm, why we do what we do, the why behind, good food, how what the industrial food system's like, how scary that can be. And, how basically they're buying health care or when they're shopping with us compared to sick care when they're getting regular health insurance. So that's one of the things kind of the principles we talk about, and we use those strawberries to pull them in. So that to us, although we do make really good money on strawberries, that to us is almost like our lost leader.
Sure.
But it's that one thing we pull people in. And so to me, like one of the things with that again going back to that chicken sausage because it's so good is to me is like a little bit of a lost leader, even though they do make money on that. Is like go to the farmer's market and sample the cheddar jalapeno brats. Okay, now you have a line of people who not only will buy those because they're great and you have them marked at a reasonable price, but they'll now buy your whole chicken. This particular farm has a raw milk herd share, so they're going to sign up for that, all that kinds of things too. And I think the other thing is to establish what is your offer too. So I mentioned that once or twice, but for us, we really want to focus people on signing up for our monthly CSA. That's kind of our offers. We really want to push them to that. That's what really pays the bills around here is those people that every month they, drop $119 or $157 every month with us. So that's the goal is, again, we move them from the strawberries, kind of indoctrinate them a little bit to who we are, why we do what we do, why they need this in their life, and then move them into that CSA program. And the other thing, we're obviously looking at other opportunities in our space. Like right now, we've realized that tomato plants and pepper plants, in the spring aren't like super popular for us. There's a lot of other people out there doing them. So we're like, okay, we're going to back off on that except for pre-orders. But really what we found is blueberry plants, for some reason, there's not a lot of people doing that. And strawberry plants, for some reason, we've sold hundreds and hundreds of strawberries plants every spring because that actually fits in with our other things as well. But those are the things we're constantly trying new things and dropping things depending on, what makes sense. But sometimes literally it's just a tweak. Like I feel like if we were way more aggressive with offering garden tilling services, that we would then basically have a really good offer to sell them. Hey, we're not only till your garden, we will give you a quick design and then we'll supply the plants, every plant you need. I think that's a way better offer. We just haven't had the chance to implement that yet because I've got 900,000 things going on in
Sure.
what we've got going on. But again, it's one of those things that sometimes you just need a little bit of a tweak, and it will make the difference between something flying out of your farmstead or something just sitting there and you'll be like, why can't we sell this?
Yeah. So in essence, you're building a farm sales funnel. I do that online. You're doing that with your tangible goods, which I think is brilliant. I guess I've never thought of it that way. It makes sense to me in the digital world, but that's a new concept for me in the actual good world. Yeah.
Yeah, let's use a small flower farm as an example. So let's say you have a third of an acre in the city. That's plenty of space to have a small flower farm. You have a little tiny greenhouse. In the spring, you can sell flowers into people's backyards. And again, you're going to lose some customers that are not going to be growing them in their backyard. But to me, 50% of the time, they're going to kill them and still come back to you for flowers. The other 50% of the time, you actually make really good margin on transplants. That's a really high margin product. So you're going to make money in the transplant and it gives you early season cash. Then during the season, you can have, obviously you-pick flowers, you-pick flowers. You can do a few like events and weddings. Weddings are really tough, so you want to be really careful there. But providing a few bouquets for a garden party or something are great. Doing a evening sip and pick where they come basically sip some wine and pick some flowers, I've heard been very successful. You can do classes now. You can do, here's how to make a flower head piece, and here's how you make, bridal, all the different classes you can now offer as well. So there's an entire business with, even a quarter acre, even an eighth of an acre flower farm.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Do you suggest people I mean, I'm sure it depends on the situation. Like you get your one product and you just go really deep in that vertical, or what do you, or is it more of like I have this product and this product and this product and this product in my farm store? For someone starting out, what's the path that
Yeah.
you would direct them down?
That's a great question. A lot of the time, way at the beginning, you're trying a lot of things to see what sticks. So with our farm, I was just looking the other day, we have over 500 SKUs in the computer. So that's basically meant that we have cycled through 500 different products trying to see,
Wow.
brought in this. Nope, this didn't work. We've settled on probably right now in our store, we probably about 100, 120 SKUs based on what we actually have available. Obviously some of that's seasonal. So like mum season, we'll have like 4 or 5 different SKUs for just mums.
Sure.
But I think it really depends on A, what your passion is, and B, what fits your market. So we obviously have a very wide diversity because we have a farm shop. And so our goal with the shop is to provide a one-stop shop for local products and kind of be a little bit of a grocery store to our local community. So we've gotten pretty wide. We haven't gone as deep as I would like in some things. We have specific things gone really deep in. Like this year, we offered 50 different tomato types for the transplants. And I found out, yeah, it did work, but it didn't. So we're going to drop 30 of them and just offer like 10 really big ones that we found out worked really well for us. Yeah. And then everything else is special order only. So I think there's that aspect of like, you could be a strawberry farm and literally go super deep in the strawberries. And we do. I mean, we have strawberry stickers, strawberry t-shirts. You could offer strawberry shortcake. We offer strawberry plants. We offer strawberry kits in the fall for planting. So we've gone pretty deep with that. And that can be really successful because you then become known as the strawberry person. Yeah. And to me, that really works really well if you're in a very big metro, because you have to differentiate typically with all the other farms in the area. But if you are like really rural, I find that you really tend to have to be more of a generalist just to try to attract enough people to get into your store. So it really depends on it. And you're going to find out, as you basically talk to your customers. And again, it really goes back to what your surveys say. So every year we do a summer survey and we deeply dive into exactly what our customers want. And that was one of the reasons why we spent, the money, a lot of thousands of dollars and put in our farm shop. Because before that, we were just actually a transit bus. We bought an old transit bus. We ripped everything out the inside. We put shelves in there and we put some coolers in there. And for 2 years, we sold out of that transit bus. And, we sold hundreds of thousands of dollars through that bus every year until we realized, okay, people are really wanting us to be able to have way more diversity and a better shopping experience. And, since putting that in, spending that money this spring, it has paid off and we've seen an increased number of visits.
I love that. Hey friend, I'm interrupting this episode for just a second to give a shout out to our sponsor, Genuine Beef. Now, this is actually my beef company, the one that my husband and I started a number of years ago to bring our grass-finished Wyoming beef straight to your doorstep. And I know that whenever we start to shift into this fall and winter season, I get the very primal urge to stock up on food. And I know many of you feel that same way. So we have put together a freezer filler special to help you do just that. You're going to get 4 of our most popular beef roasts, the ones that are great for crock pots and those cozy winter meals, as well as 3 pounds of our 90-10 ground beef. We're going to put it all in a bundle and give it to you for 15% off while supplies last. Now, we can ship this to anywhere in the continental US. We do second day air. We put a lot of dry ice in there, so it'll get to your doorstep safe and sound. And if you want to grab a box or 2 or 3, head on over to theprairiehomestead.com/freezer to grab your bundle. And I'll go ahead and drop that link in the show notes too. Now, back to our episode. What is the role of websites, social media? And I know you mentioned email marketing, you have a warm-up sequence. For your local products, do you feel like the online world can be really effective, or is that more of a supplement to what you're doing like on the ground in your local community marketing? Question. I just love to feel how that balance works.
Yeah, so it's really interesting because like obviously our strawberry funnel, that's a complete funnel now. We built that completely out and that works really well for us. But like something like we do a fair amount we'll bring in a couple pallets of peaches from Georgia and sell them by the box. And that really, I'd say 50% of those sales come through Facebook Marketplace. So we literally just have a thing up there, and we put in all the local groups. We post like once a week. We talk about how amazing they are, and we name the specific orchard that they come from, because that kind of they have a pretty good following. And again, so these people come to the store. Sometimes we'll get their information, sometimes we won't. So that one, that actually brings us some decent revenue, but we typically aren't able to capture that. With the strawberries, to buy tickets, they have to go to our website, read through the rules, book a ticket, and then they're automatically in our online funnel. So they've gone to our website, seen our information, and there we have the rules. We have exactly how you're supposed to pick, because we're really picky. We do not allow people to eat in the field. We no pets in the field. They have to come during their time slot. We have very limited parking. And we will kick people out if they don't obey the rules, but that's part of the reason. And that's why we can have such a good experience, and why we can charge so much is because people understand, based on going through that funnel, how much the strawberries, how much work it takes for us. So when they go through that funnel, they understand, they say, you know what, we get planted in September. We have to cover them all winter. We take covers on and off all spring to keep the blossoms alive. We do this. We irrigate every single day. When they understand those different processes, they are like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is awesome. So excited for this. And they respect what we do more and take better care of with the field. I hear a lot of farmers talk about, people are walking all over the fields. They're running. They're causing problems. We don't have that problem, because we have upfront built into the system, if you don't behave, you're going to get kicked out. And B, here's all the work that went into this. This is kind of like our give back to the community. Even though we make money off of the whole process, we want them to realize just how much invested we have into that, so they can have a good experience and pick beautiful berries.
Yeah.
So I would say it works together. If you have their email list, we had a friend of ours in, I think Nova Scotia. I think they're farmers in Nova Scotia, and they lost their Facebook page with 12,000 followers. Just disappeared overnight. They have no idea what happened to it. And Meta couldn't help them. So if you don't have that email list and you had everyone on social media, you're kind of out. So that's why I would always recommend, again, a website. The only website does for you is it provides basically a online digital billboard and a way to get email signups and a way to put out more information. So, you technically could use Local Harvest as your kind of, website. Although Local Harvest is not owned by you. With the website, you own it, so you control what's on there and all of that. And Local Harvest could go down tomorrow. So that's why we highly recommend your own website, link to some social media. Social media to us is kind of pulling new people in and keeping people updated on what's going on. And then obviously the whole goal is to get them on our website, get that email, and so we continue to market to them throughout the season for other crops.
Yeah, I totally agree on the email. Seen that in my business as well. When, just even with algorithms, I've never lost an account on social media, but the algorithms tank or they do their weird things, and you just lose all the contact to sometimes hundreds of thousands of people. So the email is gold.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I know one of the big problems that farmers and producers face is that price block, because, Americans, not just Americans, probably other people in other countries too, they're not used to paying what food actually costs. And so I know a lot of people struggle when they're marking their meat or their produce or their vegetables to what they need to actually make an income. You get consumer complaints. So how do you help people reconcile that or help communicate to the customer? I know you mentioned your email service so they know why the strawberries are so valuable. Do you have any other tips along those lines?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, again, I was on another podcast earlier last week, and we were talking this exact thing, how people go and see, milk at $1.99 a gallon, and then the local herd share is literally $11 a gallon. Yes. So, what's the difference? And I made the comparison between a Yugo, which I think is a Yugo car, and, a Toyota Tacoma. Which, Toyota Tacoma, the Top Gear guys literally dropped it off the top of a building and flooded it with salt water. The thing still drove, compared to the Yugo, which broke down every turn and was literally the worst rated car ever. So to me, it's like that. What would you rather have if you need to get your family safely to around town? You're going to spend the money for something that's much better quality. And I would say 99% of the time, the local farmer is going to have way better quality and care way more about the food than the mass produced commercially grown product. Now, how do you convince people for that? I mean, obviously the big one is, do you care? You know, talking about the aspect that you care, that they know the name of your farmer. That's always reassuring for them, especially if, you know, again, thinking about Hood. Does Hood really care about the milk that you're getting is safe? No, they really only care about not getting sued. So they're going to go as close to that line as possible. And that's all they care about. And then the nutrition content too. We all know that local food, freshly harvested, is going to be better as well. So talking about the aspects of flavor, talking about the aspects of freshness, talking about the aspect of you knowing the name of your farmer, being able to go to your farm and see what's going on, I think is really important. So sharing that, and some people aren't going to get it. In fact, most people aren't going to get it. In our town, we live in a very blue collar, older clientele, and we know that most of the people are just not going to get why we charge, you know, $4.99 a pound for early tomatoes.
Yeah.
And they'll come in and they'll shop a little bit, and we know that they're going to end up going down the street to the other farm market, which again grows field tomatoes conventionally and charges, I think they're maybe like $3 a pound. So that's why we've gone to, you know, we're not focusing on that clientele. We're focusing on the people in our area, which thankfully we have a relatively large metro area that are willing to pay that kind of money and are looking for a source of local food that they know the name of the farmer and can trust that they've grown well. So that's the thing, is not everyone is going to be your customer, and you have to realize that, and you have to literally, in even your advertising, even in what you're doing, pulling people in, is make that differentiation, is be very clear about that you're going to be more expensive, or otherwise you're going to have a lot of people get really upset. So when we charge for strawberries, on the page that they sign up for tickets, it says the price of the berries. Mm-hmm. On the ticket, it says the price of the berries. When they come into the store, we tell them this is the price of the berries you're going to go pick. And that way, when they come for checkout, they know exactly what they're going to get charged for those berries. And I think maybe we had 3 people this year complain. And most of those just complained because they bought a ticket and then had to go pick berries as well. But it's been working so far, so we're going to keep the price of the tickets.
Yeah. And I think that piece about not trying to convert the people who don't want to be converted, that was hard for me. But like we raised grass finished beef, and it costs more than Walmart beef, right? And so we get when I'm trying to market or I'm trying to deal with Walmart shoppers, they complain, but I had to, really get into my own head. Like, you cannot be trying to convert those people. Maybe they'll come around later, but that's not your job. Your job is to find the people who already know why they like grass finished beef, why they prioritize that, and just go with them. So I think it's such a little thing, but it can be really impactful as you're marketing.
Yeah. And not everyone, I mean, you think about it, not everyone is going to be interested in buying a Lexus. Yeah. But there's such a nice car. And so the people that really want a Lexus are going to appreciate that and are willing to spend the money and are really excited about it. But there are other people that are going to go out there and buy a Ford Taurus. And again, that's on them.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. There's enough to go around. We just got to find the right people.
Yeah.
So as we kind of, go ahead.
But one final thought on that before we, move on, is that there is that point where you start exhausting those people and you need to start educating. So that's where we do have those onboarding sequences or those nurture sequences where we kind of tell people about, hey, did you know this about the conventional food system? Or did you even know this about certified organic, that, they now allow CAFOs and they allow hydroponic. And so once people start to understand those, I think one of the great travesties, and I think on some aspects is on purpose, and other aspects is just because, but people are so tied up with the sports and the entertainment and the things that are kept busy with because they're supposed to, that they lacked the time to look at their food. And if they were to actually do the research like my wife does, when she's nursing the baby, trying to put her down, she's scrolling the Instagram and saying, oh, these are not good for you now. And, oh my gosh, did you know that the latest thing was in those little Glade plugins, that the stuff that makes the scent stick to you, so when you leave their house, you still smell like that Glade plugin, that's cancer causing. It's basically a sticky thing that sticks onto your skin and your clothes, and it's cancer causing. She's like, did you know that? I was like, I had no idea. So that's the kind of stuff that, in one aspect, they don't want you to find out. But in another aspect, a lot of people just don't have the time because they're so busy in all these other things. And that's why I think on some aspects, one of the best things you can do for yourself is almost just do a cold turkey cutoff. Like, we're going to stop all the sports. We're going to stop all the things. I even think moving to another state for a little bit might be just kind of reset the system. and just kind of get yourself like, let's really take a look at this and see where do things, because again, if you don't, a lot of the times you're ending up in the hospital or you're ending up with some other challenges you didn't realize were going to happen.
Yeah. It's just really easy to get lulled to sleep, especially like you said, in our culture, we just do the next thing. We're in the rat race. We just go along with the flow, and then we don't realize what the decisions we're making can be so damaging.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And those Glade plugins are nasty. I will attest there. So I agree with your wife. So as we're kind of rolling up on time here, getting ready to land the plane, I'd love to just talk about farmers markets for a minute. And I know that's like a huge topic. We probably could do a whole episode on that. I have heard folks say that, farmers markets are the magic key. It's their bread and butter. And then I've heard other people say, don't bother with them. I lose, like you said, you lose money on the booths the first bit. So what are your thoughts? Like, do you have any tips for someone trying to enter into the farmers market world with their product?
Yeah, that's absolutely a great question, because up in New York, our business was basically built on farmers markets. 90% of our revenue came through farmers markets. We got to the point, it was mostly cash, that literally we would have 2 bank bags because one bank bag would not hold all the money.
Oh my gosh.
Again, it was just one of those things that we were doing thousands and thousands of dollars at the farmers market. So farmers markets are fabulous for specific farms. They were great for us. We were young. We had a young crew. We were large enough that we had people that met us at the markets, that did the markets with us. I only had to do markets twice a month at the end of the farm that we were running up there. So they can be fabulous. And the beautiful thing about farmers markets is people that are interested in good food go to farmers markets. So you're going to find your best avatar is at the farmers markets. That's typically where they're going to go. So you got your perfect customer there. The problem is you're looking at weather, you're looking at booth fees, you're looking at very political farm market boards. Farmers are very independent, and then you stick them in to try to make them make decisions together. And I have literally been in market meetings that literally almost came to blows. So again, it can be very toxic. People can be kicked out for no reason. Very interesting model. But again, we did really well, and it can be, absolutely, you said, your bread and butter. But what I would say is, we actually did a course on farmers markets that we teach. But in the course, we actually say, hey, farmers markets are great, but build your email list. Figure out channels outside of markets. And some of the people we've seen that have done really successful is they use markets for years to build their base, and they stop doing markets. They're like, we're done. We've built the base we need to. We've attracted the customers we need to feed our business. And now we just bring in new people through our other customers, word of mouth advertising. And we do not need to go to the market anymore. And either people come to us, or we do like drop sites or home delivery or something like that. So fabulous way. There's a lot you can do. They can be incredibly profitable, but they can be very draining as well. So we were up in New York. We did over 1,000 farmers markets over the 10 years or 11 years we were in business. So yeah. We got experience, but it's pretty tough. And you can systematize it. So we had it down to a system where the trucks we took to market were custom designed in the back, so that we had, everything we needed exactly where we needed it. And we can make that a really easy setup.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. That's why I kind of figured it just probably is a great way to get the word out. But that's awesome when you get to the point
Absolutely.
when you have, you're kind of self-sustaining with word of mouth, email, like you said. And I think that's kind of the dream, is to get to that point where you don't have to go be actively, beating the streets every weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think my kids would really enjoy, we actually did like a little pop-up farmers market for one of our retailers, and the kids loved it. So I think if you do have young kids, that could actually be a really good Saturday morning thing with them. If it depends on your schedule and all of that, but it can be something you can do as a family. It can be a lot of fun. And I think it's really good training for kids. You can teach them about money. You can teach them about customer service. So again, to me, having your family involved is super great. And that's one great way to make that connection.
Yeah, I agree. We don't do farmers markets, but we have our little restaurant in our local area. And it's been a lot of ups and downs, but I think one of the best parts is having the kids involved. They're watching us order food. They're watching us renovate. They've learned how to take orders. They know how to run the cash register. They're hearing the conversations. Excuse me. And I'm like, that's been priceless. That's been worth all the headache, is just having them actively involved. So I think I could see the farmers market being the same way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Oh my goodness. I have a frog in my throat. It happens every time I try to record an interview. Michael, this has been so good. This has been so much actionable information. I know you have a ton of amazing content. You have an incredible podcast. You have courses and all sorts of programs. Can you give us kind of the rundown so people know how they can plug in with you to get that next level of information?
Yeah, so to get started, thrivingfarmerpodcast.com is where our podcast is. I think we have over 200 something episodes. And it's mostly just deep dives with people that are farming, people that are interested in agriculture, and just their experiences and their how they make it work. We also have growingfarmers.com. That's our main platform for learning about the different trainings we have. We also have growelderberry.com, and we got a bunch of other little mini sites as well. But if you go to growingfarmers.com, you'll find all the information we do. And again, we're focused more on people that are looking to go and make money off their homestead. But some things like the Grow Elderberry, that's really an introduction course as well. So that's if you're just interested in doing some for your own household, that's a really good resource as well. But yeah, we're passionate about people thriving if they're homestead and their farm. And that's what keeps us going.
Yeah, I love it. And I just want to say to my audience, I have invested a lot of money over the years in business coaches and mentors, and it's been some of the best money I've spent. The world of business can be confusing, and there's so much noise online. I mean, there's lots of free information, but when you can get aligned with someone who really knows the space and they can really shortcut your growth and take away, excuse me, a lot of that guesswork. So if you're wanting to start a farm, if you're wanting to make money from your homestead, I would say go invest in some of Michael's courses. He's not paying me to say this, but I just know how valuable it could be.
Absolutely. That's when I'm trying to do something new. I'm typically going to YouTube, watching 5 or 10 videos, find the best person there I find, and then I typically invest heavily in if they offer something or a book or a resource there. Because yeah, right now it's all about trying to figure out how to do it faster with less mistakes.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm like, okay, where's your paid product? I like you. I like what you have to say. Like, here's my money. Take my money. I need the course. Yeah. So go to that next level right away.
Yes.
So
I want the shortcut.
No, yep. Just go for it. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for coming on. I know this has been inspiring to me, and I know my audience will be loving it as well. So thanks for taking the time to share your expertise and knowledge. And I look forward to chatting more in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.